Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome into Two-Man Game with Rammer Rocc on ClaimsOnline.com. We're changing it up a little bit. We added a third piece. I'm going to call this, whenever we bring Earl in, this is my decision, Rammer, I'm going to call this the drive and kick edition, because usually you got a two-man game, but now we got a shooter out in the corner that we can pass it off to really cash some scoring in here. So first of all, thank you so much for joining us, Earl, and good afternoon, Bob Ramsey.
Hey guys, and Earl, I kind of like you coming up with the high screen and then the roll down. Does that work for you?
Roll down works. That's old school, like
Stockton
and Malone. But now it's the corner 3-2. That's the shot of choice.
We'll set up Rock in the corner for that.
Yes, right, absolutely.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk a little SLU basketball. We're going to talk a little NBA, but obviously with the exhibition game last night against UMSL, we all got a little Billikens on the brain. And obviously, me and Rammer last week were able to impart some of the things we've seen from some of these fall workouts between their Europe trip and this exhibition game. But we obviously want to hear from Earl Austin. So right off the bat, before we talk about the exhibition game, just what were some of your big takeaways from the practices, since they got back from Europe and last night in the exhibition game?
I like our potential depth and experience that we bring to the table. Even our newcomers that we bring in, our seasoned veterans, fifth-year seniors like Javon Pickett, looks like he's going to be a starter, played in the SEC for 4 years. Jake Forrester is a fifth-year grad senior, and going to play a lot of minutes. Excellent ball player as well. And then Sincere Parker is a tremendous scorer. So we just got a lot of depth, seniors, fifth-year guys, fourth. It's hard to tell what grade they're actually in because of the COVID and all that stuff. But we got a lot of grown men on this team, guys that play a lot of basketball for the Billikens and played a lot of college basketball. And it's looking like at least a 9-man rotation comfortably, and possibly 10, depending on if a freshman or two forges their way into the mix. So I'm pretty encouraged about that.
No surprise. I like all of our guys. I can't get it below 11. I just can't. I like our guys. Excuse me. No. Hey, let me throw something out. So the audience knows all three of us were at the exhibition against Missouri St. Louis. And as we record this, or we do the show, and for those of you who get it later, it was on Monday night, exactly 2 weeks before the season opening game for the Billikens. Rocc, I want to go to you first because Travis Ford gave you I loved it, and you tweeted a lot of notes about your conversation. He gave you sort of a Billiken primer on what they want to do offensively and some of the actions they want to run. And I know you ate it up with a spoon. So from when he gave that to you, 4 or 5 days ago, to what you saw on Monday night, give me your reaction as you were sitting there courtside.
The first thing I think was so noticeable that really jumped out to me was his comment about them playing in that flow offense and not needing him to call the plays, and how that's going to be something that speeds them up. And they were scoring pretty quickly yesterday. That's one thing I was tracking throughout the game, was when in the shot clock they were getting a lot of their shots off. And most of the first half, they were getting shots off around 19, 20, even 23, 24. They were scoring quickly. And Travis is always going to point out how that's partially the defense. But I also thought it was, even in the half court, they got down there, they started their offense, they got into their sets, and they scored. And I thought it was noticeable when they were playing out of their flow offense. I thought one of the biggest things we saw, we were just talking about the pick and roll game, I thought just naturally, because it's such a good way, I think, kind of a tentpole, kind of a tone setter inside of a play to reset the action. I saw a lot of pick and roll in the first half, a lot more than I think we saw last year, and not even as like the main action, but just as a secondary action when the first thing didn't work out, just to kind of get things going. And I think that was a big part of that flow offense, and that jumped out to me right off the bat. They're playing faster, and that was one of the big ways, and I thought it was noticeable.
Earl, on that screen and roll, the early screen and roll stuff, either it's an option for Uri, or it might be both, or it's just an early action, as Rocc says, to get the defense and force them to make some choices, and then you, as an offense, can exploit those choices, right?
Absolutely. Well, you run a pick and roll, you need a great decision maker, and that's what Uri is. And Uri obviously is a great passer. We've seen that, obviously, probably the best in the country. But he's so good at getting downhill to the bucket. You got to honor that. And now Uri is at that little mid-range jump shot. So if you back off, he can shoot that. And if that weak side guard is helping, he's going to shoot it across court to Gibson in the corner for a three-point. So you got a guy that can really shoot it, score it, or deliver the right play. Or he'll get deep, and then Francis will flash. And he'll hit Francis or Jake on the roll down. So it starts with a great point guard, and he runs the PNR really well.
Well, other part of the offense that we didn't see much of, Travis mentioned it to me, and I talked to Bob Sunvold after the game, as I did Travis, and credit UMSL. Part of what Bob Sunvold does, and he's been a professional for decades, is they don't let you get transition. And that, I still believe, is going to be a big part of what the Billikens do this year in their offense.
There's no doubt about it. And the transition starts with the defensive end. Good teams aren't just going to let you walk just get easy buckets. So what we have to do is we create turnovers or create bad shot situations, tough jumpers, shot clock situations. Then we get Uri and get it when we're pushing the ball down court. We saw last year Gibson's going to run. We got some people that are going to run. Uri gets the ball. Everybody's running down the court. And not only transition layups or dunks, but we got opportunities for transition threes. But it'll start with our It'll start with our defense.
Yeah, and I think it was. Yeah, and I think it was fair that Travis was a little bit miffed, I think, with the defensive effort, the defensive play throughout that game against Missouri St. Louis. And because it wasn't, I think, at the level he expected. He used a lot, he called for the players, for the 5 starters on the night. He called them elite defenders, talked about how Fred Thatch is the best defender every night in practice. And I don't think, especially in the second half, but also in the first overall, I don't think we got the defensive effort we expected, and Travis certainly not the one he expected. And that's going to be a huge part of this team because, again, we can talk about, getting into your sets quicker and being a high-scoring team. But the bottom line is if you cause turnovers on the other end and you get out and run, and you can run with this team, you're going to score more just no matter what you're doing.
I don't want to break down every single player, but I think I can speak. We're so enthusiastic we could give you a thumbnail scouting report on each guy. But I do want to mention a couple of guys. Earl will tell you, Rocc, I wanted to get your thoughts. When Sincere Parker came off the bench, I leaned over to Earl because if you remember, first few minutes of the game, it was a little stagnant, missed some shots, whatever. And I said, you watch, Earl, Sincere's going to go off. And he sure did. And he did down at your end of the floor, Rocc, where you were sitting. And I really believe that will be typical of what we expect, assuming that Parker doesn't end up in the starting lineup. But as it's set up now, I think that will be typical.
Yeah, and the big thing with him was just how easily he slid into the open spots, and he was able to find the zones on the floor. And I think more so than those first opening points, those or at least the opening 3-pointers, the next 2 scores he got, which were 2-point jumpers on out-of-bounds plays, the way he was able to find that spot in the defense and find those jumpers on those little plays, that was almost more impressive than him getting out and running and finding the spot. Yeah. That's getting out there on just below the break on a transition play. That's fairly standard stuff like that. But to be able to find that hole in the defense on coming out of a timeout or coming out of something like that. That's a real mark of somebody who knows where they're at on the basketball court.
Translate what Rocc said. He's Sincere's a bucket. I mean, bucket. Guys that can score just sniff buckets. They sniff ways of how to get it. And like you said, moving without the basketball, getting to the right spot, running in transition, on the inbounds play, a drive here, get yourself to the free throw line. I saw him do it in junior college, when he was the centerpiece of the offense. Now you're on the floor with other guys who can score inside, outside, and score, and pass the ball. So he's going to be able to really score. And what we saw is in a very efficient manner as well. And I think him coming off the bench, like I said, you want to bring guys off the bench that will just change the pace or the flow of the game in some way. He obviously got the chance to do it offensively as we've seen Fred do it defensively during his last 3 years. He's got a chance to do that offensively coming off the bench, and those are weapons to have bringing off the bench.
Before I give it to you, Rocc, one more guy I wanted to talk about. I've been tweeting about him a lot, talking about him on the radio. I don't want to overhype, but I can't help how excited I am about Larry Hughes Jr. He gave some good minutes last night. Look, he's still got a kid's body. That's going to change between now and this time next year. You're going to see a change. Maybe as the year goes on and being in the weight room, I think he can play 3 positions, including point guard for the Billikens. He just seems like he gets better every time out. And that's not to say the other freshmen aren't catching my eye either. Look, Kellen Thames went to my high school. Or maybe we should start saying I went to his high school. Maybe we should both say we went to Corey Tate's high school. Anyway, I'm not disregarding him. And, Nick Kramer hit a real neat 3 out of the corner late in the game. These freshmen can all play a little bit. But with Larry Hughes being one of the guys trying to get an opportunity to show what he can do backing up Uri, I think it's going to be fun to watch him.
Yeah,
Larry, go ahead, man.
That jumped out to me just when you look at the minutes. It was a shocker right off the bat that he was the first of the true freshmen off the bench in the game overall. That kind of shocked me in the first place. And then he got 15 minutes, and that's more than most of the true freshmen combined. And so for him to play like that, and then to not only get the minutes, but then to show out and play like he did, play good defense, hit some shots, move the ball well, handle the ball well. In addition to all that, he impressed the hell out of me. You said it last week that you thought he would kind of be your freshman to kind of roll with. And when you think about him being the walk-on, even with the pedigree factor, I'm loving that the kid's already stepping up. And I thought Monday night was, if you weren't expecting it, and I wasn't expecting it, it was easily, I think, the most pleasant surprise of the evening.
Yeah, Larry has such a high basketball IQ for obvious reasons. And like you said, you have the size, the athleticism, and he can shoot the ball, as we've talked about. But he just has a poise about him. Larry hit 20 points in the state championship game last year in Nixon, Class 6A. And he's been a starter at one of the top high schools in the Midwest region, and he's played for a demanding high school coach, Justin. So he knows. So he's been through the fire. He's played with the EYBO and Mo Cantley and Bradville. He's been with all. So he's seasoned. Like you said, his main thing is, like I said, wait till he gets his grown man body and gets that experience. And that's the same with all 3 of them. But I think Larry's just, probably the best walk-on we've had since John Redden 20 years ago as well. And John was a tremendous player for us as well.
So that's a look at the Billikens, and 2 weeks, as today, a little bit less than 2 weeks, they will have a secret scrimmage coming up between now and opening night, which is 2 weeks from Monday against Murray State, a really good basketball team. And the brutal gauntlet of non-conference play will start on that Monday. We'll all be very excited about it, and I know we'll mention things we've seen in practice next week, but the first week of the NBA, guys, has been really fun, and I defer to you guys when it comes to the NBA. But I have thoroughly enjoyed what I've seen so far. Rocc?
It has been an odd start to the first week of the NBA, I think is the easiest way to say it. Everyone thought it was going to be the tank fest that we haven't seen in a while, but they pull back some of the lottery odds, and now all of a sudden the Utah Jazz are in the San Antonio Spurs, who are supposed to be the worst teams in the league, are winning games, and you have team player only meetings happening in Minnesota before Halloween even hits. So it's kind of an odd first week in the NBA right off the bat. I know Earl's been watching a lot about it. He's been tweeting a lot about it. So right off the bat, my biggest thing for you, Earl, I wanted to ask was something I just referenced, which was the players only meeting happening in Minnesota. They had an embarrassing loss to the team that they traded away the house to for Rudy Gobert in the Utah Jazz. Then they have an even worse one when they lose to the San Antonio Spurs, who have one of the most who's that rosters in the NBA this season. And the Timberwolves were on our list of kind of a fun team to watch that could make a jump this year. And right off the bat, they've kind of blown the engine on the starting line. What are you seeing so far in the struggle in there in Minnesota?
Obviously, they went against the grain and they're going big. with Cat and Rudy at the big lineup. Well, Cat's a great shooter, but he's a liability defensively. And that was a good game. I mean, I think Cat's not a leader. And we saw that Jimmy Butler called that out years ago. And then he's proved it by basically calling out Anthony Edwards about his eating habits. That's something you don't do in a press conference, knowing that Cat's got a history.
Especially you don't do. I mean, go ahead and find the video on Twitter. He's hunched over on the table, and he's just doing. He's even this like sad sack performance for the ages of just like, I don't like his eating habits. You know, he's got to grow in the league. He's got to, and you know, it'd be one thing. I mean, honestly, again, if he was calling him out in any way, I'd hate it. But if he was doing it in like a forceful, like leader like manner, like, hey, listen, man, we're trying to do something this year, and you're either on the boat or you're not. Like if it was something along those lines, I'd have some respect for it. But the way he did it just was kind of, you know, cowardly almost.
But like you said, they gave away a lot. I mean, for Gobert, they traded some very valuable pieces. The leader of that team last year was Pat Bev. I mean, Beverly was the vocal leader. Obviously, he can get carried away on the court, but he literally bought leadership, attitude, and it really helped make that a cohesive unit, especially with so many young guys. And Vanderbilt is a great athlete, you know, shot blocking and does a lot of things. So it's an adjustment period for them. Like I said, it's early, and you know, it's a little early for people to be panicking, but. You know, because I think that there'll still be a team I would imagine will challenge for a playoff spot. I mean, Edwards, I think, is still a blossoming superstar. He's going to be the man in Minnesota pretty soon, and I think D'Lo is probably a big key. He has to be a consistent force at that guard position. But I got to give credit to Utah. I watched them twice. They look great. Markkanen, he's getting a chance to play leadership minutes, and he's a problem. He's playing small forward at 6'11", 240. They still got Conley. They still got Clarkson. Those guys can put the ball in the basket. So they got players, and they're playing with like a chip. Like I think it was Van Gundy said, they got a bunch of guys with chips on their shoulder because they were all, with the exception of Conley, they're all been kind of tossed aside and given away. So they've kind of made Danny Ainge the one thing Danny Ainge doesn't want to be this year is the GM of the year when you're supposed to be tanking. But they're playing. They didn't get the memo, and I think they're playing with a lot of zest, I guess you would say, and it's been cool to watch.
One of the best parts about regular season NBA basketball is when you're on Twitter or you get a text from somebody, you know, one of your other NBA friends, you're like, "Are you seeing this right now? So and so's got 35 points in the third," or something, or they hit you with that one. You got to turn it on. One of the ones that hit early was Anthony Simons of the Portland Trail Blazers, going off for 26 points in the third quarter of the game against the Nuggets. At one point, he hit 6 straight threes for 18 points. They were down 2 or 3 to the Nuggets, and then the next time you blink, they were up 18. And he has been one of those guys who's been kind of teasing, you know, NBA nerds for years of when is he going to finally break out and be maybe that third piece when CJ McCollum was still there when he was really young, or is he going to be an 18, 20-point guy and finally be a third scorer for the Trailblazers? Is this finally the year Simons puts it together, or is he just continually going to be, you know, 30 points here and then, you know, a stretch of, you know, 7-point games for 3 weeks?
He's making that move. There's no doubt about it. Last night was amazing. The best part about it was to watch Lillard, to watch Dame during that. Dame was the main one trying to get him the ball, you know.
Yeah.
And Dame's coming off back-to-back 41-point games. He had 30 himself last night. But realizing, hey, the kid is hot. Got to feed him. Milk it till it moves. And he kept moving back and back and back, and it's just that building exploded last night. It's fun to see. You're seeing these young kids in the league come in and just have that kind of impact. And yeah, they scored 44 in a quarter yesterday, and like I said, he had half of them. And against a team that a lot of people think, you know, a conference finalist possibility, and one of the big reasons why they're 4-0 right now.
And one of the last things I want to talk to you about, because you were tweeting about him, Jason Tatum, player of the week over in the East. He had obviously a great start to his season. Joe Mazzulla, the interim head coach for the Celtics, doing well. Got his first ejection. You always love to see that. They have been a lot better than I thought they would be. I thought maybe some of the comments from the locker when everything happened with Udoka maybe pointed to some potential problems and some communication errors, but they've come out right out of the gate. The Celtics are looking good. Jason Tatum's looking incredible. Jaylen Brown, Batman, Robin to his Batman. The Celtics they haven't really missed a beat since last year, it looks like.
No, they've come out with purpose. I mean, when you come that close to winning the championship and don't get it done, they were up 2-1, up in Game 4 with 7 minutes to go, and Golden State experience got to them. So I think you're coming out with a little more purpose, a little more focus, and you see that especially with Jason. I mean, Jason has been not only he's averaging almost 2 blocks a game in those, obviously the 34 we've seen, the rebounding, the shooting, scoring, but he's defensively locking down and. I think and they're doing without some key guys. Obviously, Gallinari's not going to be there at all. Williams, you hope to get him back, so they're kind of short up front. But Brogdon, I think, has been you see the great addition that he's going to be if he can stay healthy. That could potentially take them to another level. He'd add so much as a point guard who can not only score but make decisions, and that gives it lends another head ahead of Smart. So. They're a team that's, I say, quote unquote, on a mission after coming so close last year. And Jason is at the lead of that, him and JV.
If Robert Williams, if they get Robert Williams back healthy at some point, then they're back in the finals. If I had to put my money on it,
I think it's a little early for that. But I don't know how good they're going to be, but I know a team that certainly led by Zion. New Orleans is a team that you believe Rocc is going to be one of the most fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, and Brandon Ingram continues to be just a monster scorer. He has an entire bag of tricks to score in the mid range, and I know a lot of people, including you and Earl, we're eulogizing the mid range game for a long time. Don't worry, guys, everything worked. I don't know which one of you decided to start doing, going from eulogizing to.
I don't eulogize. Yep. I stampede for it.
It's back. It's back. I mean, James Harden's taken. James Harden's taking a crazy amount of mid-range game.
The mid-range game.
You're right. It never left. But people thought it did. People thought it did, and now more so than ever, you see more and more scorers. Brandon Ingram, James Harden. It's becoming more of a weapon
Kevin
again
Durant,
on a regular basis.
Kawhi Leonard, Chris Paul.
Let me get our semantics. Let me get our semantics right here. It didn't leave, but the young guys, no offense, Rocc, who are into advanced metrics, tried to kill it.
Yes.
They tried to tell us that it was a bad shot. And they've been doing it for a few years, but the good players and the good teams realize you have to take what the defense gives you, and you better be able to make it because sometimes that'll be the best shot you get.
See, people thought it was going to go out with, like I said, the veterans, like CP3, Durant, Kawhi Leonard, those guys, the DeRozan guys that are early 30s. But now you see Booker, Jason Tatum, and like you said, even Harden, an old dog with new tricks. You see some of these young studs. McCollum's another old vet.
Yeah.
You see some of the young studs who are because it's money. There's money there. Why give up money? Why there's free money there. They're gonna. You have to shoot all of them, but there's opportunities, and we get to the playoffs, like you say, the good teams. Defenses will be so good. It's not about style. It's about getting a bucket if you're going to win a championship and winning the playoffs. And that's why you see more top players, add that to even Giannis, you form a wall around Giannis to keep it from the bucket. Giannis pulls up from 15 or shoots that 15-foot turnaround. Klay Thompson's got a mid-range. It's a turnaround jumper. Steph's got a floater from about 12 feet. It's a mid-range. They call it a floater, but it's about from the free throw line.
Yeah.
Trae Young, all these cats, got it. And that's one thing. When you see the young guys embracing it, that's when that's why it's here to stay, because the young cats are embracing it.
Yeah, and I think that's why Ingram's such a dangerous scorer, is because he at his age, at his athleticism, at his size, is bringing that part to his game. And so the Pelicans are going to be a blast to watch. They got to stay healthy. I mean, that's the biggest thing right now. Zion's not going to play tonight against the Mavericks because of that hip contusion, which kind of takes down the fun that it was going to be to watch Mavericks and Pelicans, unfortunately, for tonight. But, he's looked great before that injury. Hopefully, they're smart and they they let him stay out until he's 100% healthy, because any Zion's good Zion. Less is better than none. So, hopefully they can stay healthy. That's going to make the season a lot better, because we saw what a healthy Pelicans team looks right now with, Grand Theft Alvarado, with, the veterans they have on that team. They're going to be incredibly fun to watch as long as, they're actually on the floor.
Yes. Like I said, they got a legitimate big three with Zion, Ingram, and CJ. And they got a big in Valanciunas who can score. He's capable. He can get you a 25-17 on a given night. And then I think what's helped take him over the top, as you mentioned, those young kids, Murphy, Alvarado, Jones, even Dance Jr. gives you that spring. They got a ton of people. David Griffin's really set that franchise up for the future. And I think it depends, like I say, Zion stays healthy. They're one of those teams that, there's a lot of teams that are battling for those top 4 seeds in the West, and they're legitimately, with what they have on paper, it can be one of those teams.
I don't want the show to get away without me singing the praises of Memphis. And then last night Ja and Desmond Bane both go off, just ridiculous. Now, being a typical worrywart, can they play at that high energy and that many minutes all season long? You guys were talking about staying healthy in the grind. That's the only thing that concerns me. We saw they got dinged up in the playoffs, and it definitely had an effect on them. So that's my one concern, playing with reckless abandon, which is exciting to watch. But can you do it every single night in the NBA these days?
Rammer, come on! They're rolling out John Conchar and Santi Aldama for double doubles. This team's got depth. Pouring out of its hands. Dylan Brooks, can't hit a shot right now if he can't water if he fell out of a boat right now. But beyond that, They got depth coming from everywhere. If anyone's going to find some random shooting guard to pull, 7 or 8 minutes away from Desmond Bane and give him some time to breathe this year, it's going to be that Memphis Grizzlies coaching staff. Every bench player they touch turns to gold. Brandon Clark is back to being a solid player for them. Like I said, Santi Aldama is making them completely forget about Jaren Jackson Jr. And then, by the way, they're going to get Jaren Jackson Jr., who could have been Defensive Player of the Year, back eventually healthy too. So, I'm at some point, maybe they got to run some big lineups to get these guys a couple minutes out, but that's the least of the worries right now if you're the Memphis Grizzlies fan.
Well, I'm impressed with Ja is that he is hitting the jump shot. Early in his career. Usually when you got that kind of freakish athleticism, you go for the next 6-7 years, depending on. And then as you get older, you start to refine your game, shoot the mid-range, the post-ups, and all that thing. I'm hoping that Ja, even in his early 20s, embraces kind of that older soul in him. Pull up, hit the jump shot, hit the three, in addition to his daredevil act, getting to the rim. I think that's what is going to make him an MVP, potential MVP, that much quicker and an even more dangerous player. Instead of waiting until he's 28, 29, start hitting those jumpers. In addition, when he's 22, 23, 24, and then it's, oh my God, he hit 5 coming threes last night. It's amazing.
Yeah, and Earl, by doing that, it's also a part of survival.
That's exactly.
So he doesn't have to take that beating that he takes. Hey, even if somebody doesn't hit him when he does the, as you said, daredevil act, he's hitting the floor. And you do that every night, multiple times. Well, look, even Evel Knievel had to use a parachute once.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You got to find and so that part of his game that he's developing will help him survive.
Exactly, because like you say, Wade kind of broke down a little later because he played that Derrick Rose. These are guys, Westbrook. So just get a little more of that old spice in your game early on, and like I say, it'll lengthen his career, but just make him an even bigger superstar. If he's hitting the three consistently, or even the mid range consistently, then he is literally unguardable. Because he's a good he's a high IQ player, and he's a good passer, run your offense. But he's literally a cheat code if he's doing that consistently with what he can do at the rim already. And he wants the last shot anyway. But that would just be another level of ridiculous if he does that.
One last thing, Rammer, before we close out the show, because I wanted to use this as my transition from SLU to the NBA, but I blanked on it. But I got to get this from Earl. Earl, I tweeted out the other day my comparison for Sincere Parker right out of the gate. Karis LeVert, what do you think?
Yeah, I like that. He just a bucket off the bench.
Bucket off the bench, and he's silky. He's one of those guys where he's kind of smooth. He that stop and start game. It's not. He doesn't always look like he's the fastest player out there, but he somehow just is always getting around people. And that's what I'm seeing out there.
Not in a hurry, doesn't get sped up, but that's a nice comparison. It's kind of like when Javonte first got here. He was coming off the bench. We were building around Haas and Jay Good. And Javonte would come off the bench and hit a quiet 12, 15 points. But, then he'd go sit down and chill for a little bit. And then by the end of the season, he became the main guy and was getting 30. And I'm saying that's what Sincere's going to do. But that kind of, he's kind of easing into that. Yeah, I think you get a sneak preview of that. I like that. But I like that silky smooth scoring type, just like Karis is.
Well, 2 assumptions and a prediction, guys. If the rotation stays kind of how we see it, with a good defensive guy out there with 2 offensive players, and assuming Sincere is the guy coming off the bench, he will play 25 plus minutes a night anyway, maybe closer to 30, and he will win the A10 Sixth Man of the Year.
That's definitely possible.
I predict it.
Yes, you would. You predicted he was going to go off last night.
Yeah. He'll win the Sixth Man. He would start on every other team in the league without question.
Rocky, when he predicted that, then after he predicted that, he told me that. And then then he went off for like 12 points in the 6 minutes. He looked at me like, make sure you tweet that, down.
Mark that down. That's it.
He's humble. That's the important thing. He's humble.
And may I give a shout out to my Wizards just while we got a winning.
Yes.
We're 2-1 right now. Hopefully we get Detroit tonight. Who knows how it's going to last, but I got to give a shout out to the Wizards. They're playing some pretty good basketball so far.
Bradley's playing good.
Bradley's playing good, very efficient. Kuzma's playing well. They got a lot of pieces. So,
Hachimura's a bucket off the bench right now.
Yeah, Hachimura. He likes his shot. Yeah, he's coming in, firing the ball. Yes, he is. So that's been good. They could have got Cleveland. That was a tough game in Cleveland. That would have been a good one to get, but so far they've looked pretty good out the gate.
All right, well, that is it. Thank you so much for joining us, Earl. Obviously, we're pumped up for SLU season starting in, I guess, now 13 days. As Rammer said, it was 2 weeks yesterday till the start of the season. Thank you so much for joining us here on Two Man Game. Earl, obviously, you guys pumped up for the season. Before we get going, though, Earl, please tell everybody how they can follow you, how they can listen to you, and what you got going on.
You can follow me in the St. Louis American newspaper. It's every Thursday, or online, stlamerican.com. Or you can read me at Prep Hoops, Missouri. I follow Missouri high school boys and girls basketball around the state. Prep Hoops, Missouri, and Prep Girls Hoops, Missouri, both.com. The websites you want to follow high school around the state, boys and girls basketball.
What do you got on the sports page this week, Earl?
High school football playoffs.
Yeah.
First weekend of the district playoffs and first round in Illinois this week.
There we go. And Rammer, before we get going, tell everybody a little bit about Royal Banks of Missouri.
Royal Banks of Missouri. I just was at Royal Banks today, adjusting my refi. I'm telling you, no matter what we do commercially, whether it's going to the grocery store, the gas station, wherever you're going, don't we want service? I'm telling you, Royal Banks gives you the service to cut through the clutter, to find the banking product you need, and help you make it streamlined, efficient, and easy. 314-212-1500 or go online to royalbanksofmo.com. Royal Banks, where better service means better banking.
That's another episode of the Two Man Game on ClavesOnline.com. Again, thank you very much to Earl Austin. Thank you to my co-host, Bob Ramsey. I'm Matt Rocchio. Again, this has been another episode of the Two Man Game. We're going to be back here next week talking more SLU as they get prepared to start their season. And again, another week of the NBA in the books. Thank you again to Earl and Rammer. Have a great day, St. Louis.
St. Louis Acura has an unbeatable selection of new cars arriving daily, like the all-new 2023 Acura Integra. We also have a great selection of over 200 pre-owned and factory precision courtesy vehicles with finance rates as low as 1.9% for 36 months with approved credit. And we've added Saturday service hours to our newly renovated service facility. Don't forget, we'll buy your vehicle here at our dealership or from the convenience of your home. St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.